You're alive.
There's what it is.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome. This budget workshop for the Bangor City Council. Today is Wednesday, May 15th. It's 5:15 PM. Around the table, we have the full council this evening, as well as Finance Director Little. First item on the agenda is the Downtown Special Assessment District.
All right, I'm gonna do just a quick overview and then I'm gonna turn it over to Betsy Lundy from the Downtown Partnership to do their presentation for their budget request. In their proposed budget for this year, you'll notice that there is a fairly big increase in the revenue side request. Part of that is the downtown tax district. This is a special tax that is assessed on properties within a district within our downtown. That money is used to fund the projects down there. That levy, the boundaries of that district have been rewritten. And that increase of the rewritten boundaries increased the revenue of the special assessment by roughly $105,000. So it went, last year was 100,705. This year it's 205,975. In addition, they're also asking for an increase in the rate that we charge. The rate that we currently charge is to the end taxpayer is 58 cents per $1,000 value. That is 56 cents of tax and a 2-cent overlay. They're looking for a 7-cent increase to bring that to a total of 65 cents, which is a 63 tax and a 2-cent overlay. So to the end taxpayer, it would be 68 cents versus 58 cents per thousand that they're currently paying now. If that was approved, that would bring in an additional 25,746. And the other large ask is for $340,000 for funding for the Street Plus program. So those are the big highlights based upon their budget request. So if there's no specific questions for me at this time, all kinds of questions. Okay.
All right, let's start. Councilor Fournier.
So what's the maximum special assessment?
I don't
They charge?
believe there is a maximum. It's whatever we choose.
However, the maximum for the pet was, I think, $1.15 at one point back in the 90s, and so it's never come anywhere near that since.
Thank you.
Councilor Trumbull.
Well, this is just on the packet, right? It's not in the budget book.
Correct, it's on
Okay,
cap.
I didn't- I just-
You wanna borrow mine again?
Okay, I think I'd like look at, but so the expansion of the district itself, that can't just, there must be a process to expand the tax district, isn't there? I mean, there's a public hearings or how do you expand it? I don't recall doing it. Is there?
I'm looking over to Ann, our.
We did it.
We
We've
did.
already done.
Right,
Is there a
council
public
approved,
hearing or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
nobody showed up? Okay,
It did go through the process.
Okay.
A couple of months ago,
Yeah.
I think, is when it happened.
so I mean, it sounds like it almost doubled,
It
but
brought
actually the
in,
revenue doubled.
it brought in
What, did it
properties
come in,
that
the
have,
casino come in?
yeah, the casino
Okay.
came in, it brought in some higher value properties.
It was, I think it increased. the
If
budget
you're gonna
by-
speak, come to the table so folks at home can hear you. You're welcome to come,
You're gonna
but
come up anyway. so
yeah.
come on.
Sorry for the back talk. For the backseat driving. I think it added about 67,000 to the budget.
Mhm.
With the increase.
Oh, I think they went to like 110, 200, something.
Yeah, 105.
That's 100,000, isn't it? Okay, so, I think that's all I've got a question. I'm not looking at it. So what, the additional money that's requested with Street Plus, how is the breakdown of that? What, the contribution from the city and the contribution from the downtown district? What's the breakout on that?
I'm gonna refer to Betsy. I believe the city piece, I believe, is the 340 and that the downtown partnership is gonna cover the difference because it's 4 something, I think.
Correct,
total, right?
yes, yes. And initially, we had to put it so that we were asking the city for 320, and then we were gonna pay the remaining 80,000. However, then we discovered happily that the downtown beat officer is coming back and we do pay a portion of the beat officer salary. So then that left less money for us to apply towards Street Plus, so we adjusted the number up to 340, ask for Street Plus.
And then none of that's in the proposed budget? Or some of it's in the proposed budget?
Mm.
Well, how much is in the
Yes.
proposed budget? the whole request or what they had
No,
last year?
the Street Plus is not in the proposed budget. That's a new program
Okay.
request that you'll decide on hopefully tonight.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Schaefer?
I honestly, I guess the proposed budget and the new program request, it's not in the book. Is it in here as like the typical the program request form? Because I haven't found that yet.
Right, because Street Plus has already been brought up at several meetings. There isn't really a new request program form that's part of the budget process. That was included in here. So it's
Those package.
correct, or was there one? Because there isn't one in the book. Sorry, I'm talking across the room.
I'm just trying to parse together what's on here.
Yep, so we did not include, because typically the new program requests are requests from a city department to expand or contract services. And where this is service being requested by a non-city department, there is no new program request for them. What we did do, however, is we included it. There's a summary list in the front of your book that talks about all of the capital requests and new program requests. We did include it in there so that you understood, but we said the request will be coming forward from the DBP because we knew it was coming forward. Dave's looking to make sure I'm not just.
I'm just trying to,
Complete
like,
program.
the thing with, in the city books, it always is really clear, like, here's what's recommended, here's what's not, or here's
Right.
what's possibly additional, and so I'm just trying to figure out what.
Yeah,
I don't think it's in.
I had put it in there. See it? There it is. It's under infrastructure and other. DBP third party provider. Why it's there, I don't know. Why it got under infrastructure. It's the last item
Oh,
under
okay.
infrastructure and other.
I was looking for Street Plus, so that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just referred to it as a third party service provider.
So the 436 would be the total initial proposal.
That was
from-
the initial estimate that I had obtained from the DBP, yes.
I believe you're on the right page. There's a 436,000,
Big number,
yes.
yeah. I mean, is it possible to discuss? Other, like, because of the new program request I saw was the culture, you're not doing the events calendar, right? That's something.
No,
different.
that's next week,
Okay. Other gets muddy for me.
yes.
Um,
You have a question, Sue?
No, I was just trying
Okay.
to, sorry, I do have, like, when we get to talking about the actual street
Okay.
plus thing, I have. Sure.
Right. Okay,
I'm gonna turn it over to Betsy.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. For the most part, there isn't a lot that has changed in the plans for what the Downtown Bangor Partnership does but what has changed is the footprint that we're looking to execute in. So when you look at our budget, you'll see increases, in the areas of beautification, marketing, those areas in order to, enhance the new districts that or the new members that we're bringing into the district. And then the other big programming or big change in our budget is in the safety and security department. It continues to be an area where stakeholders downtown continue to tell us that they're facing challenges, that they're facing problems. We really feel that the ambassador program is the right program because it approaches it from a hospitality perspective. I had one of our business owners downtown who reached out to one of our board members to tell them that they had just come back from Sacramento and had seen an ambassador, a safety ambassador program at work in Sacramento, and they were blown away by the impact. They actually watched a scene, in which there was a disturbance, and the ambassador worked, with the person. And this one actually did end up escalating to requiring police services, but he said that it was such a cool experience to see in action, like the very thing that we've been asking for. I think we have a wonderful downtown. I think that there are a lot of parties that are working to market Bangor and downtown Bangor as destinations. I think we've done a great job of creating beautiful space. I do think that there's work to be done in terms of ensuring that people feel safe and protected and comfortable within that space. And that's why we've dedicated the lion's share of our efforts this year into bringing forward the Street Plus proposal.
Counselor Schaefer.
So my concerns, remain the same as they were before, in that Street Plus says that it would be hard to staff to what you guys want with the budgeted amount. And looking at the schedule, it looks like there would be one person on duty, and when we talked before, this is the exact same proposal that I have spiral bound at home. I looked at it before this meeting. And when we had talked a couple of weeks ago or months ago or whatever it was, that there's gonna be more of a focus on cleaning and not like the social services, but it doesn't, I don't.
Not on cleaning, but on safety and security. So if you look on page, I want to say 23, but I don't have it entirely memorized, of the Street Plus plan. There is a breakdown of the services that we would be targeting. I put it in the.
Like the objectives are on 24.
Page 25. Addendum D. Page 25 of addendum D.
Yeah, the safety, hospitality ambassadors.
And they do provide some cleaning services. That's one of the things that I like about them, is that like none of their ambassadors are silos. So for example, they aren't just security and safety. And if they're walking by and they see a piece of litter, they will pick it up as they're moving. Or if they find somebody that, is, that has like camped out for the night, and then they line that person up with somebody, like whether it's like the Heart Team or BCAT or whomever, to kind of help that person find the next place to be, they will clean up the site rather than having to call in a separate entity to do that.
And their numbers didn't change in this, like it still says 395 is, so. I feel like the spiral book was like a year or two ago. But it still shows one person on duty.
Yes, 24 hours a day. It would be wonderful if we could have more, but clearly I don't think that like there is the budget to support that right now. But having one person on staff 24 hours a day, and that's why they also put into the project mountain bikes so they can move around downtown more easily and get from one end to the other quickly. That they will, because they are going to be covering a fair amount of territory, and then, but having that person on and able to respond to requests. And also just kind of keeping a patrol and eye out for abnormal behavior is better than the nothing that we have right now. I can tell you that there was there's a private business owners Facebook group, and just last week we had one of the business owners kind of lose it on there because and this is not the first time this has happened, because I know you've heard me tell the story before, that one of their servers was leaving their restaurant at closing time and was attacked by somebody because they were going into the Columbia Street parking lot, like the little one that's kind of like tucked away on the side of the hill. And there were people camped out there, and they apparently attacked the server who was leaving, and she was frightened. And there was a whole conversation on there about amongst business owners, and especially bar owners at night, about, like how you need to have, people need to be walking out in pairs, and they need to be escorted, and they need to call in once they get to their car. And like, that's just kind of does not feel like the environment that we're trying to create.
And so was that like, but is that, and I just think at the time there was that incident that happened when Tea and Tarts was here. And it turns out that there wasn't actually an incident that turned out to be false. So is this like corroborated by a police report and things like that?
Yeah, the manager did reach out to the police. I haven't heard follow-up from
Okay.
them on like what happened after the fact. But this is not somebody making something up.
Okay,
I do remember that as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, that was very upsetting, like when that happened, but this isn't that. And neither was the other instance that happened recently too, like.
and in general, small towns can
Yes.
have things
Sure,
escalate
yes,
on Facebook.
yes, yes, and
And I was gonna share that I had talked to the police chief because I
Okay.
was aware of that comment, and they were working with the actual individuals who were there that night. I have not heard what the final report says, but there was, similar to your point, ensuring that what was being reported on Facebook was actually reflective
Yeah.
of the situation.
Mhm.
But I'll make sure that it's gonna text him right now, that we get that update.
get
to
the
you.
follow-up.
I'm just one of 9, but I am still not, I'm still not convinced. And I love you, but I thought this would be maybe a different proposal from before, and it doesn't seem to be markedly different than before, so.
No, it really speaks to the things that we've been looking for, which is 24-hour round the clock
Mhm.
responsive services for downtown.
Counselor Fish?
As my first year, I'm not as familiar as the history of the budget and, but I am familiar with having been a business owner and having a sphere and met with many of the business owners in recent months. We do need something more and we need it sooner than later. And, this may not be the perfect solution. I don't know what is, but I think that it's, a step and trying to help and resolve and at least work it out. Maybe it'll have to be tweaked, maybe at least if we start somewhere, we can see where it works, where it doesn't work, where it overlaps with programs we already have. Maybe with Parks and Recreation and Public Service and in our downtown police beat officer. But obviously we need some help and we need something. And I think the concern I have is how can one person really work 24/7? I mean, there must be, what's the
One person
plan
on
with
at a
that?
time. There's one person on at a time and there's a total of 6 employees.
Oh,
in
there's 6,
rotation.
okay,
Yes.
that makes
Yeah.
more sense.
Yeah.
And what else would they, in the perfect day of the issues we have downtown,
Mhm.
a variety of them. If you could kind of describe a scenario where these, this one person that would be on, what you could see he could do during a day or she could do during a day. It would
Yeah,
be
so-
beneficial.
They would be proactively patrolling through downtown and being a very visible presence. Like one of the things that they found to be true within this sphere of work, and I think police officers would tell you the same, that being present and being visible has its own impact in terms of reducing the kind of negative behaviors that you don't want to see. So just being present and being visible and in a constant loop is really important. They have their own kind of built-in technology reporting system. So they do identify hotspots of activity. I think most of us at the table could identify where the hotspots of activity are, and they create patrol loops that really focus on those hotspots of activities, and they identify at what times of day or what days of the week is it more or less, do these areas need more or less attention, and the ones that need more attention get more attention. And they kind of work that all into the plan and the schedule, and that evolves the longer that they're there, and then we all know that things ebb and flow, and then they work through that. Additionally, they're trained with a hospitality first perspective. So everybody that they encounter is part of their job. So for example, if it's a tourist looking for directions, like they are educated in that field. If somebody's looking for a restroom, where are the public restrooms? Like they know where they are. So they're designed to be a resource for everyone, in addition to providing like safety and security services. It all comes from that hospitality perspective. So they would be patrolling, they would be identifying the hotspots, and then they would be interacting with clients. There is a page in there, which I don't know off the top of my head, that, towards the end, that's an addendum that shows you kind of the quantity and quality of the interactions that they have. They log them. And they do kind of, I wouldn't go so far as to say that this team, they do have social services teams, but that's not what we're looking for. I think Bangor's already really invested heavily in social services. But they are kind of social services light in terms of like checking in with people, building relationships, because building relationships with people is also really important in terms of curbing the kind of negative behaviors, you know, and quality of life, and ordinance infractions that we're seeing. Building those relationships and being a friendly face, a connected face is a really important part of that. So that's part of their training. They're trained in how to de-escalate situations. Kind of anecdotally, they don't have really hard data on this, but they said about 90% of the situations that they encounter, they're able to resolve with their ambassador program, and then maybe 10% or so get kicked up to police and escalated. But in theory, it would greatly reduce the burden on our police department, because not every situation that you encounter requires a trained police officer. Most of these problems can be solved just by speaking to a person and just saying like, hey, you can't do this here, or you have to do that over there, or, you know, maybe I can help you find this place. So they're tasked with knowing what the resources of the community are, what the ordinances are in terms of quality of life transgressions, and kind of synthesizing that data in order to both identify people who are in crisis or in need and directing them towards services or calling services in to deal with them, or de-escalating situations and handling themselves and resolving them when that's a possibility, or escalating them up to the police department, which is actually a really small percentage of the encounters that they have.
Well, thank you. You know, I feel that just not for the downtown community, for the business, people that have been requesting and needing, even for their own employees, to keep employees, on board, and for the people that go downtown, for the rest of us to feel, you know, a little more comfortable and secure. Something more, I'm for it. I know I probably need to have a better understanding, but I think having been a business person and having such a strong sphere and participating in the downtown business community as much as my family and I do, I think it's a good proposal, you know, to have something more. I don't know about the money, how it's going to affect the budget. Maybe we could talk more and further about that, but I just want to say something more needs to be
It
done.
would be, I believe, Debbie, or correct me if I'm wrong, about a dime on the mill rate.
Yeah, about 11 cents on the mill rate.
Yeah.
Because it would impact the overall mill rate to all taxpayers.
Councilor Leonard.
Yeah, so I agree with all the points that Betsy, you brought up. I mean, giving more of a sieve for the types of calls that our police officers get, that's going to enormously reduce the burdens of service that they do for us every day as a city. And so I think this is going to not only help them do their jobs more effectively, but it's also going to do a good job solving problems for the everyday person. I mean, there is a ambassador program that's used in the country of Finland universally. And ambassadors are more than just people that help solve problems. They actually help generate orders and ordinances for their own city councils to actually put forward and support, that's based on real information. I know this is the early stages of a potential program like this, but I agree with Councilor Fish. We have to start somewhere, and we are going to need these ambassadors for Bangor as it continues to grow. I know that this is going to be an ask for the budget overall, but I think this very much is worth the investment. And to also be very clear, this has been a program that has been requested for how many years is it now, Betsy? Like
Or more.
yeah, and it's gotten to the point now where there's a lot of people that don't follow council politics whatsoever that are wondering, is this actually going to pass tonight? And so I think it's a very common sense move to respond to the wide berth of people in Bangor that are unanimously saying something more needs to be done with this. This is this program right here. So worst case scenario, if it doesn't give us the problem solving that we need, we can always fire them and try to make our own tools or find another organization to solve these problems. But we have to do something more. And I think this is a great program for us to start with.
Counselor Trumbull?
Yeah, I think everybody's made very valid points. I don't think I'm ready to make a decision tonight. Everybody's admitted it's gonna have an impact on the budget. And the budget we've got right now without any change, I know we tweaked the school department a little bit on how they're gonna pay,
Right.
extend some of those,
I'll
so.
confirm.
I think, yeah, so it should take a little bit off this year's tax rate, increase, but not a substantial amount. I mean, this proposed budget, the average tax bill is gonna be over $400 increase in the tax bill. So I think we need to keep that in mind. There's like Council Leonard said, this was proposed 4 years, a number of years. Since this has been proposed, we have actually spent money in the downtown, and it seems like as we continue to spend money, are we making any progress? I mean, we put the BCAT and we put ranges in, the beat office is coming back. We've got a contract for needle pickup downtown. We spent ARPA money with HEAL to do outreach in downtown, so we've really spent a lot of money in downtown, which I think is appropriate because downtown has needed attention. I've talked to a lot of people that work downtown that don't feel comfortable going to their cars after their shift at night. And downtown's a reflection of the community. People want to feel comfortable going downtown, but we don't have a blank check to write either, so I'm struggling with it. I think it would be nice to try it, see the impact it would make, but we have done it. I think the beat coming back down would have a big impact, but as you said, when you got the beat officer back, you didn't cut the request, you increased the request from the city because you had to pay for the beat. It seems like the beat officer coming back, you may cut the request to what we would need, so. And if we do move ahead with it, I'm not comfortable with the contribution of the city. I think at least 2/3 of this, for this program should come from the downtown, maybe a third from the general tax rate. I don't know, so I need to look at that formula a little more closely of who pays for what. I just don't think I'm ready tonight. As we get closer to the end of the budget and see where we're landing, I'd be more comfortable.
Thank you. Counselor Fornier?
Couple of questions. The hours of the police officer, the new beat, do we know what those are gonna be?
It's generally kind of a 8 to 4, 4 days a week position, or they either work 4 10-hour days and they're kind of daytime hours, or they work 5 8-hour days. And it's
Story said the hours, it's sort of,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe it's proposed for 4 10-hour days.
Yes.
And you're right, I'm trying to recall the hours because I did see them somewhere.
they're kind of normal business hours.
I don't think they were.
Really? This time? Okay.
I didn't think so. I don't recall that. I'm just trying to think back in the article.
Mhm.
The council at this point, but yes, I'm getting that.
Yeah, I think that would kind of help. I guess if the need is more later in the evening,
Right.
like why is someone there in the morning?
Yep.
Right? Anyway. The other question I had was, and it's kind of going off of what Councilor Trumbull brought up. And it goes back to my first question that I had about the special assessment. Because this affects downtown directly. Maybe that special assessment should be. Maybe that should be asked of. Or ask more for that. To help cover those expenses. Because it's directly affecting those taxpayers. The other question I had was, I know we're in the middle of hiring a grant writer. I don't know if the grant writer can be helped it can help, Downtown Business Partnership, to look for other funds in coordination. I mean, to me, that goes kind of hand in hand with the city and, what Downtown Partnership's looking to do. I'm just trying to think of other alternatives rather than increasing the tax rate. I go back to Councilor Trumbull. I think a lot of people are gonna mow and groan more than usual, looking at what that percentage increase is gonna be. And if we're adding to the budget, this is potentially, this is something that isn't gonna go away. It's always gonna be there. So I'd rather not take that step to do that. The other questions I had were more regarding the financials. I saw the budgets, but I didn't see the actuals. I don't know if that was given to staff or
What do you mean by actuals?
what the actual, what's your year end? Is it June 30 or is it?
Yeah, we're on the same cycle as you.
Okay, so how did June 30, 23 come in at
Meaning were we on target with our budget?
exactly?
Yes, we were, yeah. We are very lean, we operate very lean and really go right up to the edge all the time. And in fact, one of the things that you'll see in this budget is that we are actually working towards establishing, so our first step in insulating ourselves was to create opportunity for debt. So we opened several lines, we have like a line of credit and then we also have an overdraft. And then kind of phase 2 of that is we're working to create an operational reserve whenever there's money left over at the end of the year. We're hopeful at the end of this year that we'll have $2,000 left at the end of the year. That's our target. We did have small operational reserves built in for this year. So, oh, sorry, 1,000 at the end of this year, 5,000 for next year.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
thank you.
Councilor Yakabaga?
So it's not that I'm excited about adding more to our, like, to taxpayers, what they have to pay. But I think we also have to be realistic about what's going on in downtown. I agree with Councilor Trimble. Yes, we have invested a lot. What is the outcome? Is it what we all wanted to see? It is not the case. I think what we have been seeing now, the fact that Councilor Fournier just mentioned the fact that some people, don't want to maybe come to the downtown area. I mean, that by itself should be enough reason for us to act on this. This is how I see it. And it should not be only on business owners, because who is benefiting from the downtown area? It's not just business owners. It's for everyone in this community, everyone who comes to shop in the downtown area, who comes for entertainment. So people spend money because they want to enjoy it. I feel it should not be just on business owners. They already contribute to by paying their share. So I don't feel it's fair. And I'm aware, I'm not ignorant about the increase that is gonna be on our taxpayers. But at the same time, I think it's about time that we act on this. For how long we're gonna wait? For how long?
Can I just recap on a couple points too? One, to Councilor Fournier's point about increasing the special assessment for, like, Gretchen, you probably remember that the first time that we brought this forward, our plan was to use the special assessment for it.
No, that's what mine is.
And we made we put a massive increase in, and everybody was like, whoa, 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 no, don't do that, which is great. I mean, I'm sure like everybody, would have moaned and groaned about that, but it's not to say that we haven't tried that approach. That was kind of our initial approach, was like, we came in here with a plan to double the special assessment. And we certainly didn't have universal support, but there was like a core group of, solid business owners who were willing to support us in that year. So then we backed off from that and we've come at it from a couple different angles. And the city has provided a ton of new resources over the course of the years. But, BCAT is not a downtown program. I think BCAT, Debbie, you probably know more about this, but I think there's 2 BCAT people in downtown on Wednesdays. Is that still the plan? It's not like they're like down patrolling downtown all the time, and Hart who has been amazing, and we're totally excited about them. They're not downtown patrolling all the time, like they're kind of responding to incidences, but we really need those people referring people to them in order, that's kind of what these folks are about. It's like identifying the things before they become a problem and getting people to the resources that are built and exist. But BCAT, I don't know.
Yeah, and to your point, so, BCAT is obviously responding to calls when received by dispatch. And then when not part of a call through dispatch, they are self-assigning.
Correct.
And so there are a number of locations within the downtown that we've identified as areas where individuals congregate that may need some additional assistance. So those areas are checked on regularly in between the dispatched calls. But to Betsy's point, the spaces that we encounter folks regularly who may be in need of additional services are not solely located in the downtown.
Right.
But there are a number of locations in the downtown which are part of their routine.
Oops.
I'm not gonna say their loop,
Yeah,
where they check in regularly.
yeah.
Counselor Dean.
I had a question regarding the grant that was mentioned. If we did find a grant, could it be retroactive, or do you have to have that in place prior to acceptance of the budget? I mean, can you apply it after the city's already said they would put the money towards it to reduce, like mid-year, or can you not do that?
Typically not. So typically, when you're applying for grant funds, it has to be a relatively new program. So we've run into that before, for example, when we have begun programs, and then looked for additional funding to support it after the initial pilot period. What we found is many grantor agencies will say it's an existing program and you can't supplant, i.e. replace grant funds for local funds.
So the fact that we don't have a grant writer,
We do have a
We
grant.
do have.
we do.
Yeah.
I thought you said we have one in the works.
No, that was Counselor Fornia, but we have hired.
Oh,
one.
okay,
Yeah, he's
okay.
just.
The
Right,
individual.
so
Yeah,
is-
you can.
would it be possible to have something looked into prior to acceptance of the budget, or you that's too quick?
So we can look for opportunities. I'm not sure. Every grantor is on a different cycle. So while there may not be an opportunity today, I can't tell you that a week from now, there won't be an opportunity, or 3 weeks from now, or 3 months from now. So I don't know if there are any grant opportunities as we sit here today, but it's certainly something we can ask the grant writer to look
Right,
at.
we can look into it. But yeah, our window would be very narrow. And then even if an opportunity was found, depending on the application period, we may not have enough time to actually determine if we were something would be awarded before we would need to pass the budget.
And realistically, what you're looking at from a budget passage standpoint is that you're gonna pass a budget at the end of June. And I think, Betsy knows it will take, I think she's got a commitment for a pretty short ramp up. But we all know it's not going to happen overnight. And so, to think, even if you awarded the money as part of the budget, to think that something's gonna be up and operating in July is unrealistic. I think realistically, and I know Betsy's gonna say, no, they told me they could do it sooner. I'm gonna say, realistically, I think you're looking at September or October before you get boots on the ground.
Pre-pandemic, they stood behind a 30-day turnaround. Post-pandemic, they're looking at more like 45, 60, sometimes even 90 days. But it's more in the, he said in our market, their estimate would be 45 to 60 days.
Counselor Yakubaga.
I like the idea of applying for grants when they're available, but let's assume it's not time now for them, maybe in a couple months, maybe. Can we, if we decide to vote on this, can it be contentious on the fact that we're gonna apply for grants? Does it work like that?
No,
Okay.
because you either have to raise, if you're talking about raising the property taxes, you have to raise the property tax.
Okay.
And you can't undo that after you've done it.
So what about if we go with this and we vote on it and it passes, for example, I'm just assuming things, right? And then we think maybe we can apply for grants. There are grants for the future, for next year, let's say. Does it work that way? Or
It's
no? It
not,
does
not
not.
typically.
Okay,
Typically, an existing program is not eligible for grant funding.
okay.
Once you choose to establish it, you've chosen to establish it.
Right. That's pretty typical of grantor agencies.
Okay.
Counselor Schaefer?
My question is really about the assessment, sort of really, because as you said, we had talked about raising it. I know, did we raise it last year some?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the raise last year?
It
5
was-
cents.
Yeah, it went from 53 cents to 58 cents.
And did we build in like an escalator on that it's gonna go up, or is it?
No,
you
but we
have to
did-
come and ask every year?
We have to come and ask. It's just the way that it works. We ask every year, we set the
Okay.
budget, make the.
Okay, that's the other part, that conversation that we had a few weeks ago too, that I think we talked about was with the addition, not addition, but the alignment of those districts. Increasing the revenue, and if you increase the tax, if there was, like Counselor Tremble said. More skin in the game, that would be something else, but if we're, when we're looking at. Funding our schools and their budget going up versus. This program, which I'm gonna be the doubting Thomas forever on this one, sorry, Betsy. I love your jacket, but. But I'm still not, and I probably won't be here next year, so maybe next year someone will replace me that. Gets it, but if there was more, if it was less of a tax raise from. On the actual tax value, it might be more easy to swallow, but I do support because I do know that it was $1 whatever. Back in the day, so I think that's something I absolutely support.
Counselor Fish?
Is there is there another place that we could shift some monies, that we have earmarked for something that, maybe, for instance, we have earmarked 1.3 million or so for our housing, project of ARPA money. Is there another place that we could logically shift something that isn't gonna affect our tax base for the taxpayer? And yet try to help, when you meet with people downtown and they show you 20, trespass orders they've had to do in the last 3 weeks, we're doing a lot, but we really need to do something more. We need to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, it was part of, I think the Street Plus proposal was submitted as part of the initial application. In the original round of public applications we received. At that point, the council did not want to, it didn't come up to the point where it was actually funded. That's not to say it isn't an eligible use.
Counselor Trumbull?
Yeah, and you might have gone over this a few minutes ago, but under the TIF funding as well, there's
Yeah.
a 47,300
Yes.
Bangalore partnership position, what's that?
Betsy?
So that's-
To
But that's an ongoing, that's not a one-time fund,
Nope.
we funded
That
the
is
TIF every.
Written into the tip
Okay.
that they
No,
are
we're
eligible
eligible,
as a
yeah.
full-time.
But
Right.
is this an eligible expense in
No.
TIF funding?
No.
Why?
So when you apply for a TIF to the Department of Economic and Community Development, you have to create a development program. We have our development program that's been approved by DECD has a list of things this long. Services that focus on the municipal services within the downtown is not a defined eligible use within the DECD approved program. You would have to go
Can
through,
we amend that?
you would have to go through and attempt to amend your
Right.
TIF.
Counselor Dean?
I have a non-financial question. I think it'd be great to have a positive presence downtown and the fact that they are, friendly and, are going to be helping, not just hindering what's going on, I think would be great. But I'm wondering, as far as the ambassador's safety, obviously they're not carrying a weapon, but what do they do if they encounter an issue? Do they have a whistle or mace, or what would their protocol be?
I guess I don't know the specifics of that. They've been doing this for 35 years. They're in over 100 communities. I'm gonna guess that they have a protocol for it that I'm not aware of
They don't
yet.
carry a billy club, right? I mean, nothing
No.
imposing like
No
that.
weapons, no.
So they would look friendly.
Yes, they're very friendly, very approachable. You can even arm them, I mean, we can hand them like stacks of brochures to keep in their back pockets. So they're like, whipping them out for people, you know, cause like the idea, a lot of the services that have been put in place to work on the issues that we're experiencing are really services, as they should be, that are targeted at a particular population that is struggling. And this is kind of the counterpoint to that, which is the services that are coming at it from the angle of the everyone else who is trying to exist while other people are struggling. So how do we keep businesses able to be in business and have their employees in the store and not be afraid? And I mean, I know this might sound crazy, but like, this is literally what some people are experiencing, like that their employees are afraid to be in the store. Or that their theft rate is so high, or they have people, ODing in their bathroom, and that the response time to like calls can be really long. And, sometimes they'll say, they call when there's like an issue, and it can take over an hour for a police officer to get there. Not because our police department doesn't want to be there, but because there's just so much going on. So like, we're looking for quicker response times. But ultimately, we're looking to minimize the amount of stuff that we even see happening, because there are more eyes on the street and people watching what's going on. That would be the ultimate goal.
Counselor Trumbull, did you have a follow?
Well, I was just gonna throw a proposal out because I'm sensing we've got 9 different levels of support for this right now. My proposal would be that we fund it, that the city contributes 25% of the funding, and they have to increase the TIF, the tax rate of the TIF district to make up the difference. I would support that increase when we got it. And then in the meantime, in the interim, in the coming year, we try to see if we can amend the TIF district so that we can fund it out of the TIF district going forward.
Counselor Hawes, we haven't heard from you, and I'm trying to get a sense of where everyone is. Do you have anything you want to add or ask?
Not right at this moment.
Okay.
I could support a different proposal. I wouldn't on its face right now, because I think that's a huge amount for the taxpayers. And, yes, downtown is important. We've done a lot down there. It's much nicer going downtown now than it's been for a very long time. But I think we really have to be careful. 10 or 11 cents can make a huge difference. So if we can come up with a different proposal, then maybe.
I'll just add my comments, which are all over the place, so apologies in advance. One is, I've talked to downtown business owners, and I hear them when they say they want to feel safer and they want downtown to be cleaner. Those are valid asks. I do worry about hiring a third party for things like security presence, because when you talk about theft and criminal trespass and OD in the bathrooms, those are things that, to me, like, the Street Plus is obviously not going to issue criminal trespass orders. They're not going to chase down someone who was shoplifting, right? So some of the concerns that I hear, I don't think are addressed by this, but there are a large number of concerns that absolutely are, specifically around cleaning and landscaping. And I love the idea of, on a busy concert night, having some highly visible ambassadors out there to help direct people around downtown, or when the cruise ships come in. I know you welcome the cruise ships, but if there's somebody in sort of the Pickering Square area that can help people when they get lost in the void between the waterfront and the
Going under the Union
businesses.
Street Bridge.
Right, like, I think there's some benefits to this. And, the city has, I wouldn't say we're fully online with the new things that we've added, because the Beat Cop is almost back, right? The park ranger program is almost there. The BCAT team has taken a while to get up and running. So I don't know that we're yet feeling the full impact of the changes that the city has made to try to be responsive to business owners. But I also think that, what we've tried so far hasn't worked. So maybe we try something new. So I'm like, I don't even know if it's 51-49 or if I'm just really sitting on the fence. I think what would make it easier for me to say, yeah, let's give this a try, is to figure out a way to make less of an impact on our taxpayers. Because there's a whole lot of reasons that the budget is going up this year, and I really want to be able to, when people ask me about them, defend the choices that we've made. So I would be open to considering additional proposals about how we might fund this.
Okay.
And I would want to make sure that the contract that we sign, if after the first year, you and the downtown business owners and the council are not fully delighted with the service, that we have the flexibility to be able to pivot away from it if we need to.
Can I ask a funding question?
Sure.
And this is from a person who literally does not know the answer to this question, so this is. So over the course of several years of like understaffing and things like that at the city. It seems that the cities, and I'm gonna get the name wrong, like the rainy day fund, right? I know that's what they call it.
The reserves?
The reserves have gone up. Is that a place that could be used to fill some of the gaps here? Because what it really is delivering services that weren't delivered.
My understanding, and the finance people will tell me when I'm wrong, is that it's not good practice for us to fund ongoing costs like a contract like this with reserves. Reserves are better for sort of one-time capital expenses. It doesn't mean that we couldn't do it, but it's like, you know, taking on a monthly recurring car payment with the money in your savings. At
Yeah.
some point, it runs
No,
out and you
yeah.
have a bit of a cliff.
I mean, I think on
Yeah.
some level though, what we're looking at is a 3-year commitment.
Right.
You know, that would be the ultimate goal. Part of the reason for the 3 years is that there are capital expenses associated with this, the mountain bikes, there's a truck so that they can like pick up and haul the trash bags and all that kind of stuff around as well. Like, so there are like capital expenses associated with the uptake, which is why they go for the 3-year contract. So I guess that's kind of what we're looking for as a commitment, is not like a forever commitment, but like a 3-year commitment. And as the cost of it escalate with the cost of theirs, because, you know, every year they have to give their people raises and things like that, like we will definitely be able to absorb that, both by the natural growth and valuation of downtown, and through increases to the special assessment. But we're kind of in a funky area right now because we've already put out the ad for what the special assessment can be for this year. So there isn't a lot of flexibility here without going back and like re-advertising everything and starting the process all over again for us to say, hey, let's put more of this on the Downtown Bangor Partnership. The kickoff year is especially tricky, like, because if you're going to try to do this, if, you know, like we're trying to do this like simultaneously as part of the budget process, which makes it complex because we have to walk in here with a complete budget. We have to submit our budget in advance in order for the advertisements to be put in the paper and to switch it all up. You know, it's a one-shot deal.
Sure.
without so much distraction.
It's time and money.
Yeah.
It's not insurmountable.
Mhm.
Because we've had that, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
Oopsie?
Yes.
Where we had a oopsie,
Well,
had to
2 or 3
redo it.
well, that was the year that
Wasn't it?
we put in for the like 100% increase on it. And council was like, no.
Okay, I was gonna say, so we have had some recent practice with doing that, not our preferred method, but.
Right.
Councilor Fournier?
The capital costs were $20,000.
I
I'm
don't
looking at the
know.
proposal, it just says capital expenditures,
Yep.
21,000. I mean, that's kind of my, right, it's not a big.
Just for some information, if my quick and dirty math is correct. Talking about raising the special assessment to fund the full 340 request. The special assessment would have to go up to about $1.60 from the
Feels like
current
a lot.
58.
Yes.
At 25%, where they would fund the other 75%, based on Councilor Trumbull's, it would still have to go up to about $1.30 to cover that. Essentially, if you look at the requested assessment increase of 25,000 that's in their budget, that's 7 cents on that special assessment. So every 7 cents is giving you is roughly 25,700. So to eat up that 340, it's going to take a good chunk to do that, if it's all gonna get shifted to the special assessment, whether that's one time or whether that's built up over time so that they can self-fund this program and it doesn't impact the mill rate. That's where we would be headed, is $1.50 at least at some point.
Thank you.
Just wondering, when Councilor Trammell mentioned the 25, where would we stand if it was 50%? How would that affect the mill rate and how would that affect having the,
And
And
nickel on
it's
the-
nickel on the city tax rate.
Yeah.
And it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 times that, it would be 50 additional cents on the downtown mill rate.
Be about doubling
That
that.
sounds
Yeah.
about right.
Downtown.
Yeah, $1.08, $1.10, something, somewhere around there.
So it feels to me like we have a couple of choices. We can vote on this as it is tonight, or we could take a pause and ask the finance team to go back and look at alternate funding methods that would allow us to move forward with, without as much impact on the tax rate. Counselor Schaefer?
Just my question is the 395 number's been in there for years, so one, is that accurate, and two, is that their baseline minimum? They don't show up for. They don't get a bed for less, you know what I mean? Like, because when I look at the schedule,
It's actually 420, 436, yeah.
yeah, but like in the proposal part, you know, it was the staffing was based on the. Whatever, 395 or whatever it was, but. When you look at when you look at all the marketing, it always shows these teams of people. It wouldn't be a team of people, but is there a minimum amount of hours that they will set up for, or is it? Because when I look at the schedule. You know, maybe is there that much need between 2 AM and 6 AM?
I think if you had some conversations with some property owners downtown, you would find that there is a lot of need at that time.
But if having this team out there. Making everything better, the other 20 hours of the day, do you still have that need at that point?
Well, I think the hours do flex and change over time, right? Like, so for example, if they do get out there and they find that like after 3 months, they've been able to be like, we've like greatly reduced the kind of impact that we're seeing between 2 and 6 AM or whatever it is, like it's a flexible model for them to retarget people as needed. And also in terms of billing, you aren't paying for hours that aren't served.
Yeah.
So for example, like if they were to not have an employee, like we aren't paying that contracted amount if the employee was no longer part of the mix.
But is 184 hours their floor?
There wasn't a floor. And in fact, Street Plus, when I did the Emerging Leaders Foundation for the International Downtown Association last year, we went around and toured different business investment districts in New York City. There was a district in Washington Heights that is literally 2 blocks long, and they have 2 Street Plus employees dedicated to that business investment district. Now, it's easier for them to do because they're based in New York and there's 45 other Street Plus teams there.
Yeah.
Right, so that gives them a lot more flexibility to have a business investment district with just 2 people. But, you know, that said, it's a possibility to have less. But you also don't want to set yourself up for failure of the program.
But I mean, and that's honestly, that's a big part of my skepticism when I see. Great marketing with all these teams and the pictures, and they're all like, oh, we're doing all this great stuff, but when you look at the actual staffing hours, it's one person.
Yeah, and they do shift them around. So as an example, like when we were talking snow removal, like now, I know now Public Works did the pilot for snow removal and I don't know where that's going.
3 days snow.
Huh? I know, right?
It was a good pilot year.
It was great.
Excellent pilot year.
That's all
We're
around.
great.
But so just having that conversation with them, he was like, oh, well, we could do sidewalk clearing, you know, like you would just like worked into the capital amount would be the snow blowers, because I find snow blowers to be better at clearing sidewalks than the plows. And we would just deploy our teams like en masse during a snowstorm to be continually snow blowing during that time. So, or if there's a waterfront concert, as someone mentioned, I apologize for not remembering whom exactly, but you know, we could say like, okay, we want half of the team to be redeployed during this time period, or if we wanted to, when the cruise ship is coming in. So there is like flexibility to move them around, or if we're having sidewalk art festival, or we need to use them, you know, similarly probably to how like the police department and you know, Parks and Rec, like they will have focused times when they have to pull people in from other places.
Councilor Leonard?
Yeah, but when I see the schedule of one of these workers, I don't think to myself, they're doing the same exact work every single time. There's different things that occur at different times of the day. So just using police officers as an example, at night, I live downtown. There's the occasional person who yells at the top of their lungs. Maybe it's a disorderly person who was a patron at a local bar. Maybe it's someone who was having a substance abuse issue. And having someone at that time to respond without having potentially anyone call them heavily reduces the amount of work the dispatch team has to do with our Bangor Police Department, and also relieves, at the very least, an officer who has to respond to one of those issues at night. But come morning, what happens, a decent chunk of police officers who do their morning shift primarily visit places where people encamp overnight. And this is another person who can just on their own whim, be able to visit these areas and talk to these individuals in a way where it's a bit more relatable, because they're not talking to someone with a badge and a gun. And this person might be more susceptible to potentially seeing this person over and over again, to actually be coordinated to use other programs that exist in the city to get that person off the street. But also, if there are special events that do occur, that's less coordinating that we have to do if we need someone to meet a ship that comes in, or if we have an event close to the waterfront concerts, to have another person helping the city maintain beauty and maintaining its standards of how it looks, to want to approach every single citizen who comes into the city. Again, I get your concerns, Councilor Shaver, but I just don't really see that as an issue.
Councilor Barney.
I'm fine with staff,
Yeah.
maybe rehuddling, come back,
Okay,
never ending.
job security for staff.
Is there a budget ambassador?
Yeah, I
Councillor
agree with
Yakavaga.
Councillor Fournier. Instead of seeing this voted down, I would like to see more conversation between staff on ways to fund it.
Councilor Fish.
I too would like to, instead of kind of the attitude of how can we axe it, I'd rather kind of see where we might be able to fund it with the least impact on the taxpayer, and hopefully with the attitude, we can do something.
That's where I am too.
And also to Counselor Trumbull's point, like this idea of like pursuing TIF money, you know, that like even if it ended up being that it was like a funding, like a lot of funding had to come this year, like from the budget or from some other source.
Yeah.
And with the goal of working it into the TIF for the future, like that could be an alternative route too.
That seems like it might have legs. Yeah, yeah.
I just,
Councilor Dean.
I would be very much in favor of this proposal, and I would also be in favor of looking for other ways to fund it. So I would like to find a way to get this moving, because I do think it's needed. I think it's high time we made our downtown something to be proud of again.
Councilor Yakavaga.
yeah, it just concerns me because I don't know if it was last year or the year before increasing that percentage. I think the discussion was it's gonna be shocking to people and it would not be acceptable. So I don't know where does this stand.
To increase the special assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we were to, like the year that we brought that proposal in, we did do a lot of conversations with people leading up to it. I think they would feel a little bit blindsided to try to drop it on them right now and be like, oh, by the way, in 3 weeks, you know, I don't think that would necessarily go over well with the constituents downtown. Although I think that there is a lot of support for this to happen, and also the understanding that that they are going to bear some of the burden of the cost as much as they can. But you know, I mean, I think when you look at like our entire special assessment is $205,000 as it stands right now, to think that we could fund, you know, a $400,000 program. That's a stretch, you know, even if we were to fund half of it, that would be 100% of our current assessment would have to go towards funding this program. Which is, you know, I get that it's a lot, you know, also for the city and, you know, as to spread it out over the entire thing, but it really is everybody's downtown. I look at the marketing for the city of Bangor and most of the pictures come from downtown. They come from the waterfront. They're of the big buildings downtown. They're of the library. I mean, you know, so many of our assets are downtown. It really is, even if people are coming here for other things, like even when the hospital is marketing Bangor, like they're using pictures of downtown. Like it is that symbolic. You know, it really is kind of the core memories of our city.
Anything else on the agenda for tonight?
Yes, the downtown TIF.
All right, let's talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So the other thing we're gonna review tonight is the projects that we anticipate using the downtown TIF on. So there is the downtown special assessment. And then there's the downtown tax increment financing district, which are two separate things. Takes a while to get that squared away. So the downtown TIF is it's a program for those who may not know. I'm going to try to explain this correctly. It's a program for reinvesting in your downtown and using funds to do repairs and maintenance and other things in your downtown district. So you establish a boundary and the properties within that district are, their assessed value is essentially locked in for a certain number of years. And if they invest in their property, the incremental tax is able to go back into the district to fund projects to enhance that district and specifically downtown. So I'm not seeing correctly, so I think I got it right. So our downtown TIF district generates about $4.2 million approximately a year. So in the 5-year capital plan, we try to allocate that out. Things will get shifted between years depending on the programs, because a lot of these projects are multi-year projects. So some of this funding is to start putting money away. Other funding is to pay for ongoing projects that have been going on for multiple years. So that's listed in your packet. The money is used, part of the money is used to pay the arena debt service, which was always the intent, so that it does not hit the general taxpayer. There's the Columbia
I have a
Street.
quick question on
Certainly.
that. That's so the Cascade and the arena, that doesn't generate enough revenue for the debt service. We need to contribute this as well. The
Yes,
arena funding.
correct.
Okay. So this fills the gap between.
Yes.
The
There's the village partnership. We know that that's coming. We know that that's going to be a substantial project, so they're starting to put money away for that and to any costs that may come up in the next year to ramp that up. Downtown sidewalks and repairs and replacements. That actually is going to be using some existing funds. That's money. We typically put money away for projects like that on a yearly basis. There's been enough that has been saved from prior projects that we can use that existing funds. Pedestrian improvements, those are new traffic crosswalk lights, the flashing lights for pedestrians to try to make downtown as safe as possible. Redevelop the bulkhead on the waterfront, the Condescate Stream retaining wall, which we've been talking about. That's going to be a multi-year project, which is currently unknown, because until we start tearing it apart, we won't really know how bad it is. So we're putting $500,000 away this year to start that project and get an idea of what we're getting into. Lighting upgrades, the generator at Pickering Square that will be used by the transit center as well as the parking garage. The Penobscot River remediation, that's been an ongoing cost that we have to budget for. The Crossing Center Reserve, monument restorations, the retaining wall down at the Cross Center, downtown partnership position that we talked about earlier, Condescate Extreme trail lighting, Columbia Street retaining wall, parking infrastructure. So it's a lot of infrastructure type stuff to keep our downtown so that it doesn't degrade. And we try to keep it as updated as we possibly can with this funding that we have.
Questions and comments about the TIF?
Not a specific TIF question, but as we talked about the TIF district and new funding, it just came to mind. Does the money we get from the waterfront concert revenue from ticket sales, does that go into the general fund? Does that go into a specific fund or just in the general fund?
The tickets go into the Best Park Fund, no, the Arena Fund.
The tickets for what?
Oh,
The
that's
revenue from,
the revenue from the tickets.
you know, the
Parks-
dollar
Parks and Rec.
25. or-
Right.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's Parks and Rec,
Is
so
it
that goes in
Parks
the
and
general
Rec,
fund,
yeah,
which would flow into our
revenue
fund balance.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank
That's all
you.
we got.
All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.